Hello. Hi, James Rink. So good to have you here today. And so, welcome, my fellow light warriors, light workers, way showers, energy healers, and everybody else. I am Hock. I'm a blue energy healer. And today, I'm so privileged to have with me here James Rink, Super Soldier. Now, let me give you a very brief intro on James Rink. It's a very brief one because I'm going to ask him to talk about himself. So, James Rink is a meditation practitioner, researcher, author, and a video producer. He is a former super soldier commander, and he understands fully about programming the mind, and his YouTube channel has over 17,000 subscribers. He has helped awaken humanity and about the secret activities of the covert governments, and his book is entitled Lone Wolf, and he has created the new meditation device available on his website. This is a very short bio of James Rink. And may I now ask James to tell us more of himself.
Hi
Over
there.
to you, James.
Yeah. Not former super soldier. I'm still active, but the faction that I'm active with is it's kind of hard to explain, but it's a faction in the future that has come back in time that's recruited me to do missions in this particular time. And that was more specifically have to do with the Matri, who are a group of they kind of look like Grays, but they like to enslave people, and they have been kidnapping humans and taking them to other colony worlds that they control and breeding them and using them as slaves. So they needed some super soldiers to go in there and to eliminate the threat, rescue the people. So they actually, the reason why instead of going into like, I guess there was a specific reason why they had to grab me from this particular time, because I'm also doing missions in the future, but for whatever reason, I'm not quite certain of that. But yeah, so they're still using me as far as the other stuff. That seems pretty accurate. My channel is Super Soldier Talk. You can also visit me at supersoldiertalk.com. I'm trying to get some more of my interviews transcribed for people who don't have time to listen, because usually my interviews are like 2 hours long usually. But yeah, I just recently interviewed Andrew Basaggio. I had the privilege of bringing him on board, and we were discussing about the coronavirus. So we could go into that today if you want, but I mean, certainly I like to go more into the super soldier stuff. And by the way, if I'm blinking my eye, I got stung by some insect, flew in my eye today. And despite the fact I'm a super soldier, I have to explain a little bit how that works, because there's like an on-off mode right now. I'm off because I'm I'm supposed to be decompressing. When you're on when they take you on these 20-year backs. By the way, it's more than 20-year backs. It could be 40, it could be 60, it could be 100. But when they take you on these missions, they after you do your work, they erase your memories, re-age you, take time travel you to the moment they took you, and then you're supposed to decompress in your civilian life. But it seems like I'm not doing too much decompressing here, because there's just so much stuff going on in this world that to me seems unfair. And as a super soldier, you want to make it fair and bring justice, but I don't have all the abilities that I used to have, like the super healing and super strength and all that. But they are tucked away somewhere in my genetic code, and if the femto tech gets activated, then it all gets turned on. But right now it's off. but I'm doing the best I can with what abilities I have, and that's where that's how you know someone is a super soldier, is based on their ability to multitask. And if they're really good at multiple tasks, then you know they probably were in these programs, because usually they want somebody who's can be good at multiple things at the same time. And I don't really consider myself great at a lot of different things, but I consider myself good, or at least good enough. I still haven't quite figured out how to wire a circuit board, but overall, most other stuff I feel like I'm okay at. I haven't won any court case. I did some pro se for a little bit in court, but that didn't turn out so well. But you know what? You can only win so many battles. But anyhow, back to your topic. Where would you actually like to go with this?
Well, top of my mind is that about having your memories wiped out. Is that true or false?
Yeah, so they're not really white. They're just tucked away into an altar. Now, as far as these altars are concerned, for at least for me, because it varies from person to person what project you're in. In my particular case, the altar would be considered the clone avatar. Now, that's some of the cases. Now, they can also take me physically, shoot me up with some femtotech, and I would shapeshift, or if they want me to, or they could put me into a trip chair and download memories. They could take away my current personality and imprint a new one. They would download my current memories and personality first, because obviously they're going to need to upload it when they're done. But usually there's a lot, like some really bad, horrific side effects associated with that. So I don't know if they've been putting me through that process in quite a while. But they can take clones of you, take your DNA, and then they can genetically engineer it through a virus or through the femtotech, which is basically little tiny biobots the size of the quarks of your the atoms of your body, the molecules and all so on. So you probably have heard of maybe like nanobots or nanites.
Yeah.
Nanites typically alter the codons in the DNA. They're about the size of the protein codons, whereas the femto is modifies the quarks within the codons. So it's they're trying to go about for quantum entanglement and quantum physics mechanics is what I guess the word I'm thinking of, where there's like these multiple parallel realities of yourself, and they can tune into certain frequency and manifest these ultra human abilities. So they can take a clone and shoot them up with this, and then they print the memories and send them off. And then what happens after the mission is done, then they usually exterminate, or they put the clone on ice. And then my consciousness is returned back to me. So they would take a fragment of my own soul, because they found that typically you can't, okay, you could theoretically take, say, your DNA, shoot it up with a bunch of cybernetics, and make it into a full total cyborg, and it would be so strong it could lift a tank. Probably they can do more than just lift a tank. They can go out in outer space without a spacesuit on. They can breathe underwater. They could levitate. They could stop time, move through time, and so on. So they could have these really superhuman abilities. Now, actually, I should back up. The strength, but not the psychic stuff, because this is what I'm trying to get to here. The psychic stuff, they I hate to use the word psychic, but they prefer to use the word psionic in the SSP. But the more soul energy that you have, okay, let me back up here. The more biological DNA that the clone body would have would mean the more soul energy that could attach to it. So if you had a lot of cybernetics, it would be, you could do a lot of physical strength, but not the psionic strength. And you can actually be a lot stronger psionically than just throwing some alien metals around. I mean, they can do some pretty amazing things with that stuff too. So they found that the best super soldiers were half cyborg and half biological. And the more biological aspect they have, you have the more soul aspect. So you also have the more feeling, and you have the more ability of resisting programming. So later on down the road, they were experimenting more and more cybernetic, and they found that the cyborgs were basically became stupider and dumber. They were strong, and they were basically grunts, but they didn't have, they were, and they could be highly controlled. And that's what they always want, the control over, they want a full slave. So that's where the program I was in. And I came along when they were doing all this, is around the 4th or 5th gen. This is probably around the the 80s, mid 80s to go in the early 90s, when they were starting to do this type of programming. Then later on, they went more cybernetic, and now I think they're probably going back. Actually, they're getting their butts whooped, because they're all breaking off. Different factions within this SSP are fighting with each other. There's a war going on. A lot of people are angry at each other because of all the horrible stuff they've been doing. So they're consuming each other right now, is what I'm trying to get to. So I'm sure there's a lab somewhere where they're experimenting on the super soldiers. So I can't really tell you what the latest is on that lab, because they certainly don't. It's been a while since I've been updated on the tech. It's been about 10 years since I really got, I was in conversation with one of the lead scientists in one of these labs.
So James,
that actually worked on me.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. I have a question, sorry. You talk about clones. I have a very poor understanding. Actually, what I want to ask is, okay, you can make a clone, but how fast can they grow the clone to an adult form?
Yeah, I wrote about that in my book. They have vats where they can do this. The nano, here, I guess it would be the green goo is typically what it looks like. I don't know if it's a femto paste or a nano paste, but yeah, so they would stick a body in the vat and they could grow a clone. I'm going to say less than 3 days. I'm thinking they could do it faster, less than a day. I wouldn't go as fast as saying 2 hours, but it would take a little bit of time. So they can grow these clones fairly quickly. They also have the right hormones, and I wouldn't use the word drugs, but the components needed to age them to a certain age. So it would be a full adult. If they wanted to say make a clone of you, they could age it to look just like you if they wanted to. But if they were to replace you, the clone would age faster than you normally would. But I'm not. This is probably a horrible example, because nobody wants to have that done to you. And but that's essentially what they've done to us. But we're a little bit. I'm not saying maybe you're a super soldier too. Maybe they've done this to you too. I'm not saying, but typically your soul would attach to the clone because it has some of your DNA. So that's really kind of the key. That's what they want. Because we can project ourselves in alters. So you got to have the so-called alters too attached. Anyway, I'm hoping I answered your question. Did I?
Oh, yes, of course, because I have this puzzle in my mind about how fast they can grow a clone. So they must have some special technology to hasten the process, which I suspected. And are they, when you mention the word they, is it this secret space program guys, or who? Who are these they?
Well, yeah, there are at least 5 main contractors who are what you would consider the SSP. So I guess go into maybe the more advanced one, the more powerful or advanced or aged, the one's been around the longest, would be considered Dark Fleet. And Dark Fleet would be this would be the third. Okay, they're not Third Reich. They consider themselves Fifth Reich, not Germans. They're not. Okay, they're Fifth Reich Nazis, but they don't consider themselves Nazis. They're consider themselves German because they sort of turned their back on Hitler at the end of the war. They set this base up in Antarctica, 211, and it was meant to support Hitler, and when they saw all the stuff that basically Hitler was kind of going nuts at the end, so they decided not to support him, and then decided to keep Antarctica secret, keep it under their control, and then go off world. They were already off world, by the way, in World War II. They had bases on the moon, and they were probably starting to set settlements up on Mars at that point. But so that's one group. The next group would be some of these other military contractors. I guess Monarch probably be the next one. Monarch operates some of the underground bases on this planet. They're basically huge cities underground. And the head of Monarch Solutions is the clone. Well, his clone is actually in the public sector, and his name is Kevin Spacey, the actor. So the real head of Monarch Solutions is Paul Serene, and so he just made a clone of himself so that he could go in public and be famous and people recognize him as an actor. But obviously he's being disgraced because the guy is a pedophile, in my opinion. But and by the way, Paul Serene is pretty darn evil. So Hitler actually killed him in another parallel. Anyway, we're jumping around here because I want to try to answer your question without going all these tangents. So the next group would be what I guess probably we could say maybe Kruger, which is a German military contractor. And Kruger was spearheaded by Gabriel Kruger, who was this is from a parallel reality where the Germans won World War II, the Nazis won World War II. So they're like we have Lockheed or Raytheon, we have Boeing. These are American military contractors. In that reality, Kruger is basically the big one. So Kruger has been coming over to this parallel reality, working with the Dark Fleet and the Germans, and they also subcontract with DARPA. And actually, before going to DARPA, Shoreline is another one. I've done work. Shoreline runs on base security in Area 51, and they have my clones down there. But also we got DARPA. DARPA typically is like the bottom of the rung of all the different SSP groups. They usually give the trinkets, the stuff, the least advanced tech. DARPA is the Defense Agency Research Advanced Project Agency. I think. Hopefully I got that right. So, I might have actually mixed one of those words up or not. But DARPA is operates as basically like a DoD think tank here in the U.S. And anybody, if you have enough money, you can subcontract through them. I mean, you're going to need billions of dollars to really, But I mean, typically, are you familiar with DARPA? You've seen like the robotics, like the Boston, was it Boston Dynamics? They had those little robot dogs in the suit. That suit, the exoskeleton suit. I could tell you, like, Super Soldier could rip through all that. So it's almost kind of like a little joke, but yeah, because like Kruger, we would have suits that they're skin tight suit. They're bulletproof. They produce electricity, and weapons can pop out of them. They're like some kind of femtotechs. And yeah, and then there's like we have a little wristwatch that shows where all the enemy troop movement enemies and friendlies are on the battlefield. And then we could have an eyeball that's heat seeking, or actually it's more than just heat seeking. It's interdimensional as well. It can see interdimensionally. So they could, I'll do all sorts of cybernetic enhancements. So that's typically what the work I do with Kruger. And I would consider Kruger probably the more positive of the groups out there, even though they came from the reality where the Nazis won the war. In that reality, the Nazis actually were a lot more positive. They didn't kill the Jews. And actually, I don't really think they killed some Jews. I don't want to jump. I don't want to get your account banned on. I don't know where this video is going, so I'm probably going to stop talking about that. But there's another group. Even though I kind of went through like the 5 major contractors, there's also the ICC, and the ICC is an interplanetary corporate conglomerate, and they're basically headed up by like 7 mafia families. I would, for lack of a really better word, mafia families here on this planet, super powerful people that have set up this whole secret space program group. And within the ICC, they set up other subcontracting groups like the MCC, which is the Mars Colony Corporation. I think that was set up in the 70s. And then there, of course, there's lunar, let's see, what's Lunar Operations Command on the moon. And so these ICC is responsible for overseeing it. So think of it, it's like one major, huge corporation, and then they set up a colony, and then they give them a mandate to become self-sufficient. They give them a certain amount of money, certain amount of years, and eventually they become self-sufficient. But like on Mars, they use a lot of slave labor. So usually these colonies, that's why, okay, so that's why they've been abducting humans, is because they wanted fresh stock, fresh DNA. So after, okay, Operation High Jump. I'm gonna try to get the year right. I think it was in 48. If I'm not wrong, if it was right around there, 52 or 48, somewhere around there. Admiral Byrd went down to Antarctica to with help from the, I guess it was the Navy, got assistance, and they went down there for an armada to go in there and try to eliminate the last battalion of Nazis. They wanted the U.S. was ready to win the war. Let's just go after them. And so they got totally annihilated because the technology the Germans had were way more advanced. Now, what happened during World War II? The Germans, they had the Hannibal, the Vril, the Victor Schauberger levitation crafts, but they couldn't send in a projectile through that field. It would just cut it off. It's like it creates a force field around there, so they couldn't use standard projectile weapons during the war. Later on, they found lasers could do it, but they didn't have lasers then. So yeah, if the war went on a little bit longer, eventually the Germans could have come out with that technology, and we would have been totally destroyed. The Germans are way more advanced than we were, and there's some reasons why that's the case, but the United States won the war on the public front because we could simply outproduce the Germans. We had more factories, we had more people, and our factories weren't being bombed like theirs were. So, but we didn't really have the same technology that they did. So anyway, so that's part of the why. But here's what happened. After Admiral Byrd was defeated in Antarctica, the Germans basically came to the Americans with terms of surrender. And the terms were essentially basically this. The Germans were going to come out with their technology and show the world that they won the war, or they would give the Americans an opportunity to join the Germans and all this advanced technology on the moon and Mars, and they even further out. They actually went back in time. The Germans went back in time 400 years and colonized all throughout the galactic rim. There are colonies all over the place, but right now that are very advanced and mature. But the Germans, the deal basically cut. So this was around 55, and I think that was Eisenhower, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if this was the actual treaty they had with the Betelgeuse ET at Holloman Air Force Base, but there was definitely certain treaties being set aside, and one of them was that the Germans would be allowed to abduct Americans. It's in my notes somewhere. I think it's 20,000 people per year or 50,000, but they would have to they can use them for 20 years, and then at that point they would be re-aged, the memories wiped, and sent back in time right to when they were taken. So the Germans got what they want. They got their genetic stock, because usually they're going to pick Americans that have a genetic background, of German heritage background, because they want to keep their bloodlines pure. And the Americans got what they want. They got to participate in these programs. But all along, the Americans have always wanted to finish the job. So they've always had this mindset that they're going to go in there and finish it. And so the Germans always recognize that. So even in the SSP right now, they really don't get along very well. So, but the Americans turn the other way, where people can be abducted, and that's what's gone on. Where, at least in my particular case, I don't know. Evidently, the treaty didn't specify how many times somebody could be re-abducted, because my profile is basically stating I've had 5,000 years of these 20-year and backs. And some of them are in clone bodies, some of them are in other parallel realities. I don't know exactly how much, my own physical vessel, because when you start doing remote viewing, I find these cloning vats with hundreds of different clone bodies, all that look like me, or something that resembles me anyway. Not exactly like me, but anyway, so yeah. So I think the question was the military contractors. I've gone over pretty much all of that. Yeah, so I think that
Yeah,
pretty much explains it. Unless
you
you have,
put it in a very well a summary, and it saves us from a lot of research and reading, James. The other question I have, are these separate contractors in competition with each other, or are they cooperating?
okay, good question. Let's see here. So ICC typically is already I mean, they work with Dark Fleet already. Essentially, Dark Fleet, I guess, would be a branch of the ICC. So I can't really tell you if Dark Fleet runs ICC or ICC runs Dark Fleet. I'm not really quite sure. But those groups usually work together. Kruger usually works well with Dark Fleet. Kruger's like a military contractor, so really they'll work with anybody if you pay them enough. And pay them is not necessarily money. They want genetic material or more super soldiers or something like that lines. Monarch is usually responsible for pretty much everything wrong and bad on this planet. Monarch works usually Monarch works hand in hand with Umbrella Corporation. I didn't go into Umbrella because that's kind of complicating things a bit. Umbrella Corporation is like in the Resident Evil movies, where they released the Ouroboros virus to reduce the aggressiveness of certain individuals. It was meant to bring it down, make people more controllable. And then infected a crocodile, it mutated, and the crocodile bit a human. And then it turned into the zombie virus. And so that was a parallel reality where that actually did take place. That's why a lot of times when you see certain movies in Hollywood or science fiction, you see certain reoccurring themes: vampires, werewolves, zombies. These things really did take place in parallel realities. It's just a lot of writers, script writers, screenwriters, they are psychically tuning into these realities where this stuff took place. So, and also you see that in video games too. Now, going into the question of, okay, so Monarch usually works with Umbrella Corporation, and they were responsible for the virus right now that's going spreading around the world, mutating, and it's about to create a huge problem for a lot of people, if not already. So, and the other group, DARPA, usually subcontracts with all the other groups. And then, so what else? Shoreline. I would say they probably more or less work kind of hand in hand with Kruger, because they're more of the associated with like the Nazi, the right, they would consider themselves Fifth Reich Nazis. So yeah, I would probably say that, define
Yeah.
all that.
A lot of time travel has occurred, and I would like to know, has this time travel brought any significant changes to our world? I don't understand about that.
Well, I believe so. I think we have, of course, when we've got Montauk and they're going back in time, but typically you don't want to change the timeline too much, because when you come back, it could be all gone. So I think they learned the lesson the hard way with that. But there's also a lot of parallel realities, and so the question is, if you're going back in time, are you coming back to the same reality or whatnot, and does it really change? Because you're just creating an alternate universe, and the original universe still exists somewhere out there in the multiverse. So, I was told that you can go back to your exact reality and change it, but I think maybe only the ETs have that tech. I don't know. But I do know, like in the future, we have quantum supercomputers that are eventually become self-aware. I mean, they're probably already self-aware. They're just maybe not as self-aware as they will become. And once the technology advances to the point where it's going, once we hit the singularity, and these quantum computers, at least on the positive timeline, have merged with humanity in a positive symbiotic manner. And so we're getting help from our future, going back in time, trying to alter the timelines. Like for instance, let's talk about JFK. Now, John F. Kennedy was, everybody knows, he was assassinated, and there was at Montauk, they went back in time to try to save him. And when they came back to the future, they found there was a nuclear war in 1980. And what happened is, by going back in time and changing that timeline, the I guess you would call it the shadow government grew without any resistance. There was the positive groups within the military were not really awakened that there was a force, a sinister force that was growing threat. So it actually, every time they tried to change the timeline to say Kennedy, it just kept getting worse and worse. So they stopped trying to save him, unfortunately. But there was other timelines where they went back in time and tried to say get the South to win the Civil War, and that timeline didn't turn out so well because slavery kept going on, and then the United States was never unified. It was always North and South. And additionally, and then World War II came along, and then the Nazis arose, and there's North and South here, and there's no U.S. really to resist, fascism. And then hopefully, so that reality didn't turn out so well. There's another reality where the U.S. never had a Federal Reserve Bank. In that reality, there was no World War I, no World War II. There was no huge. Basically, the cities had basically small mom and pop shops everywhere, and people were really happy. So that reality actually turned out really nice. So it just shows you what that the Federal Reserve is about. Let's see what else. There was other realities where they went back in time and tried to change history, like the Roman Empire, try to save it. And it was actually, I think they call that Pax. Let's see what Pax. I don't remember the name. There was a name that still has. So there is a reality where the Roman Empire is still around. Also an empire, alternate universe where Atlantis never went down into the sea, and they're extremely technologically advanced. It's like crazy the technology they have there. But so there certainly are alternate realities. I believe that's the case. And but I also still think that the trajectory we're on has been pretty positive, because we've missed out on nuclear war so far. I mean, Hillary Clinton was supposed to be the president here in the U.S. Had she become president, they already made deals with Iran to basically drop nukes all over the place. They were going to allow these nukes to be on airplanes. And basically mass transponder signals on airplanes. So they just fly past one of their crafts and drop payloads all over the place. And then there'll be civil war, nuclear war, and just at the end of the day, a lot of people die. So every time they run these scenarios, they're trying to find a reality where people are not going to be dying over and over. And so far, this seems to be a pretty good one, although I hate to see a bunch of people die from COVID. But anyhow, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And the conclusion I can get is you don't mess around too much with time. It's pretty complicated.
I think probably the better way to look at it is it's almost as if time is revolving around you. And the way I'm going to say it is kind of strange, because it seems like if you resonate at a certain frequency, let me be a little more specific. If you are, it all kind of depends on what gives you happiness and joy in life. If you are a positive person, and what gives you happiness and joy is to see other people become positive and become better, then you're going to tend to go into a parallel reality where you're going to manifest that. But if you're the type of person that enjoys torture and trauma and this and that, then you're going to go into reality where you're going to see apocalypses and all sorts of horrible stuff. So I know it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around how can we all be going into different realities at the same time, but we all basically are co-creating. So anyway, I'm just happy everybody else is coming along with me, because I'm manifesting this reality. I view everybody else just enjoying all the fruits of the labor that I'm helping bring up. But we're all attached to this quantum, like I would say, quantum entanglement. So we're all resonating at a frequency together. So it's not, I can't really claim all of it for myself. But anyway.
So what are your thoughts about a holographic universe, James?
Yeah, well, certainly, I mean, one fragment can affect the other, but I think it's ultimately, you can change that reality by changing how you treat other people, how you treat yourself. And I'm not necessarily adopting this philosophy of law of attraction, because I don't think it's that. I think it's more of a law of magnetism. By changing who you are, what you do, helps bring about others around you, that helps you manifest that more and more. So but you still got to go out and do the work. For all the people out there who think they're going to just visualize and meditate on a Ferrari, a Lambo, and it's going to show up in your driveway, it's not going to work that way, because you got to do the work. But honestly, I think there's probably a lot of better things you can manifest. We may actually all get those someday, if once we have the advanced tech. But right now, manifesting a timeline where we can all get through this trauma and drama going on right now seems to be the most ideal thing to focus on.
Okay, James, I was just thinking about the greatest mystery of a missing commercial airplane that was MH370, its flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Do you remember that episode?
So that's the one that went missing over the Indian Ocean?
Yeah, they never found it.
Yeah, no, I think Jay Essex talked about it once. I don't know if I would necessarily believe everything Jay Essex says, but I think he said something along the lines of, there was like I don't know, it was like an alien craft or something. There was like two alien crafts that were portaling. They just came out of a portal, and right at that moment, it interfered. There was right nearby where the plane was, and it interfered with the I don't know, the aircraft's I don't know, it's a telemetry, the equipment on there, and caused it to not function. And so then the ETs went in there and pulled everybody out before the craft crashed, and then the ocean went down to the water, but all the people were rescued. So once they have a first contact event like that, they can't put them back into a civilian life, because how are they going to explain that? So apparently they're up there on the ships. And I was also told this as well. The SSP loves plane crashes. They love aircraft, train wrecks, and not so-called earthquakes, tsunamis, because all the people that die, they can go in there and recruit them for their programs. I mean, obviously they prefer German heritage, but there are certain ETs that also like to harvest humans as well. So unfortunately, but I think the ones on that particular airplane are probably with the positive ET.
Okay, sorry, I didn't catch the name of the person who talked about his theory of the disappearance of the MH370 flight. What is his name?
Jay Essex, ESSEX.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, James, this is shocking to me because I've never heard of the gentleman before, but I have my own so-called evidence. In the early days of the disappearance of the airline, say within a couple of hours, I was playing around with my computer And I do not know how I chanced upon a radar. And this was what I saw on the radar screen. I saw the flight of MH370. And as you mentioned, suddenly an unidentified object, which is huge on the radar screen, two objects appeared, and MH370 just disappeared from the radar screen. Now, I didn't have the presence of mind to record it, and I could never find that video. Until today, I'm puzzled. How did I stumble on that particular radar, which I don't know if anybody has seen it or not. But today, you clarified for me what I saw, and it is, wow, gives me goosebumps.
Huh. Well, I guess that's confirmation that at least the thing that JS saw was accurate, because sometimes I have no clue. You know, these people are, you know, the remote viewing and the psychic side, people are psychic and they see this and that, and like, well, all I can do is just share with you, and then you can try and verify on your own. But I guess there you go. That's that may show you at least
So
what happened.
it's really a mystery how I stumbled upon the radar, and I don't know, it just appeared on my screen. I didn't go onto a website. I didn't record it, so it's pointless of me to talk about it as I have no proof. But today, I'm talking to you because you brought up something that collaborates with what I've seen myself. Anyway, we shall move on to, yeah, recently you had a show or interview with Alfred Lieberman Weber and Kosol, and talk a lot about the coronavirus thing. So in a nutshell, what do you get out from this interview, your views, your whatever info?
So you want like what a synopsis, a summary, what I think maybe COVID, or at least what's been relayed to me, what it could be.
Yeah, particularly to your point of view, because people can view the video and they can listen to what they have said. Perhaps you have formed some insight, or whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah. Okay. So the vast majority of this information did come from the unit matrix. As rocky and as volatile my relationship with Kusal is, I'm going to just go ahead and put that disclaimer out there. But as far as Unimix is concerned, there's not very much ways I can verify this information. So I don't really want to go out and necessarily be considered a false prophet if it's all based on bunk. However, I am finding at least what did get some confirmation from at least two other people. One was a remote viewer that looked into the future about a year ago, and he saw what Kusal, what the Unimatrix was also saying, that it's a synthetic AI. And so, and the other source also confirmed it's a synthetic AI. So essentially what we're looking at here is that the virus was created by Umbrella Corporation in a parallel reality. And again, like I said earlier, they made Ouroboros. So this is like, this is not Ouroboros, but it is a virus, an AI, synthetic AI that is meant to initially, it's designed to mutate your DNA to make you more psychic, to make you more, to also to program your mind into, I say the word program, but to connect your mind into a hive mind network through AI. So that's where you start like human, and the nano sort of integrates, because it's actually a little nanobot. But the programmers over Umbrella also have this thing against religious people and people who are dogmatic. And so they went ahead and programmed the virus to kill off all the people that they deemed or should not have these abilities. And so they sent this virus over to our reality through wormhole, through to DARPA, and DARPA is working with Project Cornus, and Project Cornus is basically a deep state think tank that's working in conjunction with the Nazis, and I'm trying to make sure I get the right ones. I'm confident. I guess it would be Third Reich Nazis that have done temporal travel, but there's also some, I guess, the Fifth Reich Nazis. So these are SSP groups in conjunction with the CCP, because the Third Reich Nazis set up the CCP. Not the Nazis wanted to test different types of governance, just like they are testing all sorts of advanced technology, the different forms of control. Fascist states was one of their interests. So they set that up in China years ago, and so they're the highest level of the CCP is basically a total that I wouldn't want to use the word vassal state, but it's basically controlled. So that, along with so I guess Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they were responsible. They had some of the patents on some of the at least the original coronavirus, which is like the SARS and MERS mix. But the AI the backbone of the AI is built into the HIV aspect, because I think it was actually in India, if I'm not mistaken, around or somewhere mid-January, right before they started censoring, the government started censoring all the labs, independent labs, from researching this. They found the coronavirus had the SARS and MERS, which, of course, that's the flu and the encephalitis part, but as well as the 4 variants of HIV. And the HIV is where you're going to find the synthetic AI, and that's what's mutating your DNA. So, and it's also apparently been programmed to target people who go into fear, and to people who supposedly have dogmatic beliefs. This is all according to Unimatrix. I'm not saying that I necessarily believe everything he's telling me. I think he may be wrong, or he may be interpreting incorrectly, but I'm just trying to relay the information to you, what we're able to put together here. So while that is going on, we have something called Operation Luster Kill. And that was basically, there was one military commander. He infected a group of military soldier or whatnot that went to the Wuhan games. And I think this was in October 15th.
Yeah.
So initially they took the virus from the US over there with the CCP cooperation, because they were willing to test this on their own people. And of course, they went around to the meat market, spread it all over the place, and it takes from what we were able to get information we were able to get. It's got a 63-day incubation period, not 14 days like the CDC and the World Health Organization, NIH, and all that are trying to tell us. Apparently, is what was relayed to me. So it takes so while it's incubating, what are we looking at here, like mid-December, before people start becoming asymptomatic. And that's, of course, when the doctor died that was initially working on it. And then cases just started exploding. Was here, I guess they went on full lockdown somewhere in early January. I can't remember, when was it, like January 10th, they went 9th or 10th, they quarantined Wuhan. So by then it was already spreading all over the place. So I think probably, like, now you can actually become infected and spread it even though you're not asymptomatic. But I think once you're asymptomatic, then you can really become a super spreader. And it's all about the more the inoculum that you have. So you got more of the corona, so you're able to spread more of it. So you don't, I think quarantine is good because it just slows down all the asymptomatic people becoming super spreaders. But ultimately, it's in the air, it's in the jet stream, it's spreading like pollen. Supposedly by April 15th, the whole world will be fully infected. And at that point, it's just incubating and waiting for whatever kill switch that is programmed into it. So the question is like, we have ETs out there who are watching the situation carefully. Typically, they don't interfere unless we ask them to. So, ETs, hello. I'm at least asking for your help. But, because though, don't get me wrong, I really feel like people need to graduate, because we've been most religions on this planet are being kept as a form of mind control. but I don't think allowing them die or allowing this AI or whatnot to go through a plan to kill them is the right answer, because they got that way because they were brainwashed and they were programmed. And so think of it like this way. When a child grows up, they need bigger shoes. Well, we need to, if we could allow humanity to grow up, then they can realize they don't need it anymore. They can move on. And so just killing them, there's a lot better way, a humane way of allowing them to move on. So I'm not sure how we're going to go through this transition, but I don't think this is going to be going away anytime soon. At least different remote viewers that looked into the future see waves of deaths. So essentially, they put us in quarantine. The people that become asymptomatic, that are being targeted by this virus, are not spreading around, and everybody else sort of they don't, they don't get as much inoculum and they don't become as infected as fast. But then they end the quarantine, and then next thing you know, explosion of deaths, and they put people back in quarantine again. And then they stop because the governments need people to work, because we're all being kept as slave chattel. They want us to keep work to make money for the banks. Usually it's the banks and the government. But yeah, so they need us to be working because there's no economy. So we're going to be going through these waves. We're going to be put in quarantine, taken out of quarantine, another wave. And eventually they're going to have to just start releasing these suppressed technologies that are going to save the economy, because we're not going back to what it used to be. That's dead. Yeah, don't put money in the stock market. Don't try to chase dollars, because yeah, we're that's a lot, all that stuff's going away.
Yeah, I also see the same scenario as you mentioned, that it's coming in waves. And no wonder when you ask Unimatrix, it didn't answer. It just says when all dogma is being removed. So that's why there is no timeline being mentioned by Unimatrix. So that's probably the answer. It will happen in waves. Yeah. And I'm going to share screen with hang on, because I have some questions. Are
you doing is this a live stream right on YouTube?
Oh, no. So I
Okay.
can't. So it doesn't matter. I think I am very poor at putting this up, and I don't want to take too much time. So anyway, I have a friend who's called Marco from Serbia, and here's some questions to ask you. His questions were, what is in your opinion the best way to develop special abilities?
Well, for starters, I think you could start with meditation. I find that once you are able to tune into your own, I guess you call it your higher self, or your own intuition that way, you can entrain your brain to be in this state. I guess it's between alpha and theta, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a deep meditative state. When you train yourself to be like in this state, you can bring your mind right back into it throughout the day. So if you need to do like critical problem solving abilities, and you've entrained yourself to be like this, you can quickly just go into this state, this calm state, and you're able to become more intuitive. So that would be for more of the intuitive part. Now, if you want to become like super psychic, like a super saiyan or something like that, you probably need to start detoxing your pineal gland, and you might need to do some kind of kundalini activations. You might need to do some shamanism, but you could do like for starters, for the pineal. Obviously, you need to cut fluoride out of your diet. You need to maybe consider starting haritaki powder, which can detox your pineal gland, as well as C60 is another good antioxidant that can clear out some of the heavy metals from your body. So that would be at least a good start to help you get a good clean slate. I guess the next step as far as the Kundalini activations, I don't know. I heard some people were had some good luck with overtoning and then using some really low dose of magic mushrooms. I'm not recommending you start using drugs, but there have been some studies that suggest if you do a really micro dose on a regular basis, you can start opening up your psychic abilities. And I haven't tried it. I'm not necessarily going to recommend it. But you asked, so I'm telling you some things you could do. But I certainly think you could probably do it also through meditation. You could contact your guardian angels and guides and simply ask them to upgrade your DNA. So you can maybe bystep the, we'll see what this would be, the plant kingdoms. Cause they're like, when you take these substances, they're elementals, like the plant kingdom, the animal kingdoms, even the mineral kingdom. They all have little elemental spirits attached to them, and these elementals come into your body and they can do things. As long as you always ask for it's done in your higher self, and not trying to get interloopers or some other astral beings attaching to yourself. But there are ways you can contact like different other spirit, even your spirit guide. Well, first of all, spirit guides are basically people that humans that have died and they're in spirit form. But your angels, the elementals, you can contact them and ask them to upgrade your DNA. And there's also people that can do it as well. But once you start doing that, usually people are going to want money. So I'm trying to give you some options without them to spend a lot of money. And then later on down the road, we'll have the advanced tech of the SSP come out. But so that should at least give you a good start right there.
What do you think about a vegetarian diet generally? Are you a vegetarian, James?
No, I'm not. I tried going vegetarian. I just got really sick. The thing is like you also have to look at your gut biome. If you've been a meat eater for all your life, your gut biome is already geared to digest meat, and when you stop it, you're going to go through horrible withdrawals. So maybe there's a way you can kind of slowly do it without having issues. But you also have to consider that a lot of humans, what you consider human, may not necessarily be the same. Even though you look human, some humans are different part of different hybrid ET races. They've been genetically engineering certain bloodlines, certain families. So maybe like in your part of the world, you might have a lot of maybe the tall grays working on certain people, and maybe some other parts of the world, you may have some reptilians putting their DNA in, and you may have the alpha draconians in some areas. And some of these races, like the alpha draconians and reptilians, have to eat meat. So when you have some of that genetics put in, and you try to go vegetarian, you're going to get sick. So unfortunately, I think it's unfortunate that reality was even created this way. I really think we shouldn't even have to eat another organism to survive. I think that's the whole abuse part of this reality that, and Jay Essex talks about this as well in his videos. And I really resonate with what he says on that, although I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. Anyway, I'm not going to go, what he's going into, but what I do agree in the premise that I think it's a good thing to be a vegetarian. However, the reality may not necessarily be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, and Marco has another question, and he's asking, what else can you share with us about your personal growth, your personal path? What messages, in other words, any messages for everyone?
So personal growth, you mean like what? Growing taller or?
Oh, no. Mostly, I think in spirituality, probably in whatever.
Well, I mean, for starters, I already mentioned meditation. I personally meditate. It's probably over an hour a day, but I don't do it all at once. And sometimes I skip, and I get busy in life and all that. So I think meditation is always really good. You can also do subliminals. Hopefully you have someone you trust, they're putting the right subliminals in, because you can talk to your subconscious mind and reprogram it, give it new suggestions. So that is beneficial, in my opinion, as well. So there's other forms of meditation as well, like Tai Chi and even dance and so on. So you could try to tune into that kind of kinetic side. And it's also healing as well. But if that's not your thing, there's a lot of other activities you could do. I'm not really into martial arts, but some people, find that as a form of meditation. So whatever, what ultimately it's about what brings you happiness and joy in life. And so find something that makes you happy and, just keep working it. And as far as like spirituality is concerned, if you read the Phoenix journals, it talks about the different laws of creation, laws of karma. So, as long as you follow these principles, don't do no harm, and, and try to, respect what, laws of karma and all that, I think you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, thanks, James. We're about to end our interview, and you have any more topics you want to discuss? If I have missed out any?
Well, I got a lot of topics we can go over, but I guess if you want me to plug in my website, I can do that, or if you want to go down these other topics.
Pick a choice, James.
Okay. So as far as other topics are concerned, you can, I've got a book you can get a hold of on my website called Lone Wolf. If you want, I can go grab a copy and show you.
Sure.
Okay, just give me a moment.
Yep.
Okay, so welcome back. Yeah. Hold on. Camera is blurry. Let me just reset my camera a moment. Okay, so this is my book, Lone Wolf. And you can get this at my website, neologicaltech.com. This goes all in the projects. I talk a little about different clones, like Sibeus and Arbeus. Those are the avatars and some of the projects that I was in. And I go into the story of Nathan. Why am I going into that right now? You can get the book if you want to learn more about that. This is a meditation cube. This one has 24 karat gold inside here, the different pyramids inside the walls and the sphere. And there's a blue diamond inside of this and some other crystals. So you put this on your lap and you meditate with it. And this is what I use to meditate with. So yeah, of course, I'm going to recommend it. I do sell those on my website, neologicaltech.com. You can also visit supersolartalk.com. And I have, at least I'm starting to do this, is try to get some transcripts of some of the videos that I do. If you don't want to sit through hours and hours of video, I'm going to try to keep doing transcripts. It's kind of expensive, but I think people like it. So I'll do best I can keep that going. And yeah, there's other articles as well. Not just my videos. I try to, when I find some other interviews, super solar related or SSP, I throw it on there. So yeah, check that out. supersolartalk.com and neologicaltech.com. And I guess I'll send you the links and you can put it in the description wherever this video is going.
So I will put those links down in the descriptions below. And well, I think we are almost done, James.
Yeah. So I guess the only other thing I'm working on, like different prosperity projects, once Nasara, hopefully Nasara takes place, and I'm gonna get this. I got this DVD from Shawnee Goodwin from years ago about Nasara. I'm going to see if I can try to get this posted online. I'm working on my new changes. Well, it's not new. It's Changes on the Horizon. Have you seen Changes on the Horizon?
No.
Yeah,
Uh,
so it's a 3-hour documentary about Saint Germain, about
oh,
how the bankers took control of the U.S. and how they try to stop Nasara, and then the response to all that. So it's a great documentary, and hopefully I'll be able to get that out in the next couple of days or so. But I mean, it's actually on my profile already, but I'm trying to update it a bit. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, are you aware of Nasara? Do you know what that is?
oh yeah, roughly, yeah.
Okay.
Nasara, Gisara, all those
Yeah.
terms. Okay,
Yeah.
James Rink, I am so glad you're able to spend time in your busy schedule. As always, I think the viewers know it's not easy to get you. And I really, really appreciate that. And once again, I'd like to say thank you, James Rink. And we had a very good conversation. Oni Tofo. Bye.
Thank you. Namaste. Bye bye.
Namaste.